All right. Um, yeah, this is another one of Lydia's PayPal requests. Um, Nick Cave reads his letter to MTV at Letters Live. So yeah, let's go. I'm being nominated. Nick Cave responds to MTV on being nominated for an award in the category of Best Male Artist following the heightened popularity of his critically acclaimed ninth album. Um, with Bad Seeds, Murder Ballads. Let's go.
Hi, I'll just put this letter, which I actually wrote, into some context. In 1996, I released my ninth studio album called Murder Ballads. And on this record, I did a duet with Kylie Minogue called Where the Wild Roses Grow. And this was released as a single and became a hit. MTV, who had ignored me for 20 years, put this video on heavy rotation, and I was catapulted into the world of superstardom. The upshot of this was that MTV nominated me for the Best Male Artist along with George Michael. And I felt uncomfortable on some level about this. And on one very stoned evening, I wrote the following letter. And overnight, the door to MTV was closed firmly in my face, and I was flung back into obscurity.
The power of MTV in them days.
To all those at MTV, I would like to start by thanking you for all the support you have given me recently, and I am both grateful and flattered by the nominations I have received for Best Male Artist. The airplay given to both the Kylie Minogue and PJ Harvey duets from my latest album, Murder Ballads, has not gone unnoticed and has been greatly appreciated. So again, my sincere thanks. Having said that, I feel it is necessary for me to request that my nomination for Best Male Artist be withdrawn, and furthermore, any awards or nominations for such awards that may arise in later years be presented to those who feel more comfortable with the competitive nature of these award ceremonies. I myself do not. I have always been of the opinion that my music is unique and exists beyond the realms inhabited by those who would reduce things to mere measuring. I am in competition with no one. My relationship with my muse is a delicate one at the best of times, and I feel that it is my duty to protect her from influences that may offend her fragile nature. She comes to me with a gift of song, and in return I treat her with the respect I feel she deserves. And in this case, this means not subjecting her to the indignities of judgment and competition. My muse is not a horse, and I am in no horse race, and if indeed I was, still I would not harness her to this tumbril, this bloody cart of severed heads and glittering prizes. Thank you. My muse may spook, may bolt, may abandon me completely. So once again, to the people at MTV, I appreciate the energy that was put behind my last record. I truly do, and say thank you. And again, I say thank you, but no thank you. Yours sincerely, Nick Cave.
I like that. I like that for the fact that that's a real songwriter's. Um, I completely understood what he's saying, and that almost once people start patting you on your back, you kind of a good analogy for it is fighting is like UFC or boxing. And say you come into boxing or the UFC and you knocked a couple of people out, and then the media starts calling you a knockout artist, then you feel like you need to go in there and knock the person out to live up to this thing that people think you are. Um, and you go in there, you try and get a knockout, and because you're no longer trying to fight, you're trying to get a knockout, the other person can deal with that and ends up knocking you out or beating you because you're going for a knockout because you believe what people have said about you instead of just staying true to you. Um, and yeah, music's the same. So like and especially as a songwriter like him, I fully understand what he means by that world of MTV and that kind of, well, you see that MTV way of thinking has become kind of the norm now of like, it's why music all sounds the same, because instead of wanting to be original, you want to just make another hit that sounds like this guy who's just had a hit, or this, which you know what I mean. Um, so you make your song sound like that in order to get a hit instead of being your own uniqueness. And there's no way Nick Cave could um yeah fill that shoe, because the truth is you're not gonna the crowd that you're gonna draw with that way of being, with the kind of fit in and making your music fit in, and the people you're gonna gain as fans through that are fickle and will change with the wind. But yeah, if you want to be a true artist, you have to stick to your guns, and you might not never have as big a audience as somebody like a Justin Bieber or Ed Sheeran, but the people that you do have will be legit music fans, legit fans of you and what you do. And yeah, and also I do think that that like he said, even though he spoke of it in terms of a female, you can, people talk of it in many. I think Neil Young talks about sitting by a rabbit hole, waiting for a rabbit to poke his head out and grab it. Keith Richards describes it as a radio, like he's an antenna, and the songs he writes, it's like he doesn't write them, but he's an antenna for something in the ether, and the song funnels through him. And I do think that, like, if you're a writer, what it's very hard to not kind of want to please people. Um, but when you get into that, it's I do, yeah, I agree that that creativity in however way you want to look at it, your muse, as he said, that can die real quick. Um, through many different things, through just being disheartened by people's lack of appreciation for what you do, or trying to fit in. Like that's probably the biggest killer of that kind of creative whirlpool, is wanting to be. Even Noel Gallagher says it about when they sung after the Manchester bombing at the Ariana Grande concert here. Um, the crowd that gathered to sort of in tribute to the people that died. Some woman just started singing "Don't Look Back in Anger," and the whole crowd kicked in. And Noel says, if he's like, if I sat and tried to write a song for that situation, he's like, I'd never, the song would have never been released. So he's like, when he wrote "Don't Look Back in Anger," he never imagined that in such a traumatic situation as the Manchester bombings, that his song "Don't Look Back in Anger" would be sung as a kind of dedication to the people that have died, and like, but it means something to people. And Noel says that he's like, I didn't think of that, but it has a meaning. I do think, yeah, I think he's smart for not wanting to be a part of that world for the fact that it will kill your creativity. It's why bands go downhill after their first, like pretty much every band's first album is good. Not every band, but you know what I mean. The majority of their first albums is good. But that's because you're young, you're hungry, and you're in it for the right reasons. Then once you start making money and people start saying you don't want to dress like this and you got to dress like that, and then it starts to crush your kind of uniqueness. And the amount of as well, the amount of different people, like a school, it's like a school system. Every child is born a genius in its own right and a creative genius, and the system of school kind of, well, it does. There's many psychologists and what have you that will tell you that the school system just completely kills that creative uniqueness that everybody has. But you do get it beaten out of you, and then you get the odd few like a Nick Cave who managed to keep his and then not exploit it for something as meaningless as an award. I've never understood that with because in rock and roll, the whole award thing is kind of irrelevant in rock and roll, but it seems to be really big in hip hop. The amount of hip hop artists you hear saying I never got voted for a Grammy, and they have beef with them, and it's like, who cares? It's a bunch of pretentious idiots that don't know anything about music, or do you know what I mean? And it's just so like most of the time, them award things are just because they want you there. But it's like in hip hop it seems to be important to get Grammys and what have you, and yeah. In rock and roll, I think rock and roll's a bit cooler in that thing where you kind of don't want that. It's not what you're in it. Yeah. You're more in rock. You're more happy if someone you like says they like you. That's a bigger award than some dumb little trophy. So yeah, I liked what you said, and I liked what you said to someone who did used to write. And I'll say I feel like I was someone that had that beaten out of me, where you go in to play these gigs and it's just awful, and you think, what am I doing this for no money? And yeah, but thank God for people like Nick Cave that can kind of wiggle through the cracks of normality to make actually unique music. And I do agree with him 100%. His music is unique. There's no two ways about it. He's a unique artist. Um, but yeah, I like that letter. But that's the reaction. Sweet.